is closer to a yes, that I'm going to fail more times than I probably succeed. That failure is not only okay, it's necessary part of the journey.
Your story is yours to write, and you don't have to be defined by your past. Jennifer Cassetta has been empowering people to write their own narratives and to live a life free from fear. Her own story, marked by resilience in the face of chaos, ignited a passion to lift others. She took the wisdom forged from adversity and transformed it into a message of strength. Join us as we uncover the essence of true empowerment with Jennifer Cassetta, because the mightiest victories come from the battles we win within.
The word itself is used in a way where it's like, I empower women. Do I really? I don't know. I don't think I empower them. I think they empower themselves, but I'm here as a catalyst, a fire starter.
What is your edge in life? What has been the one thing that gives you an advantage and makes you uniquely you?
That's such a good question, Chris. It's something I have to think about a lot from a business perspective, right? Like, what makes me stand out over other speakers, over other coaches, authors, etc. Because there are millions out there. What always comes back for me is the fact that I'm a third degree black belt in a martial art called Hapkido. And I think that's very unique. Obviously not in the school that I trained in. There were many others of us, but in the world, in this world, in the coaching, speaking, etc. world, I would say that is the edge, and not the belt itself, obviously, but the unique values that I have because of it, the skills, the leadership principles that I value, like discipline and things like that, I think are what give me that edge in life.
Can you tell us a little bit about when you realized that martial arts and personal development were going to be essentially your life's work?
I mean, I'm still figuring that out. No, it's been 20 years. So, everyone out there, hello, and thanks for listening. It's been a long work in progress. And I would say you kind of can only answer those questions by looking back. I don't think I and most people know it at the time when you're building out your career, your life's purpose, your mission, that it's like this moment. But when I did start doing that reflection, a bunch of years back, I was in this speaker training, and we were asked to kind of take a look back and think of those defining moments in your life that were probably low points. Hint, hint, they're usually low points, that really, had a massive impact in your life. So I really struggled at first. I was like, I don't know. I had a pretty, easy childhood. There was no like major things that I could point to that made a big difference. But when I got to September 11th, 2001, I knew that for me was a defining moment. There's a very long story that I share shortly in the book, but I share it in my keynotes, etc., that I feel is the big pivotal moment. Meaning, I was dabbling. Well, I was pretty serious about martial arts training for about a year, and as a hobby, as something I would do after work, and absolutely loved it. But on September 11th, I had an experience where I showed up to work 3 blocks south of the World Trade Center. When I got out of the subway, the first tower had been hit. There's black smoke billowing out of the building. And to make a very long story short, I was trapped in a utility closet with a bunch of strangers when the first tower fell. So all these people started rushing into the lobby. I got pushed into this closet. I felt like I was going to die. And this woman came over to me and, basically was like my guardian angel in that moment. She said, you and I were together. We're going to get out of here together. And sure enough, we did. So hours later of like running through the ash and all the things that you've seen on TV, or, maybe you experienced it as well. If you're listening out there, you remember what it was like. Pretty scary. And finally, after hours of doing that and looking for a safe shelter, I took Nancy, was her name, to the dojo. So I was to the martial arts studio I was already training at. So when we got there for the first time that day, I was able to breathe deeply, watch the news, understand what was happening, and get out of that severe heightened fight, flight, freeze state that I was in and start to relax a little, feel safe again. So, in the weeks and months afterwards, I was out of a job and all I wanted to do was go to that martial arts studio. And then, so again, looking back, I can see how I started to feel more safe in my body, in my world. I started to feel more strong, more confident, more spiritually grounded. All of these things, obviously, over time, they got stronger and stronger. But even in those first, few months, I started to feel better and work out what I can see now as pretty severe PTSD, work it out on those mats. Throughout that entire decade, it wound up being a decade that I trained at that martial arts studio and really dove in. I was also doing personal development work, which I loved, and, had that seed planted by my dad from when I was a young kid. He was always listening to Tony Robbins and all these, cassette tapes and all these things and reading all the books. So then that's when I started to combine them, at least for myself. So I was doing all the seminars, reading all the books, going to the dojo every day. And like I said, I did that for a decade in my 20s and into my early 30s before then making it a real true part of my career. So long answer to your question.
That's all right. I kind of actually got a little choked up there because it's really interesting to think that while you were experiencing what happened, just like fear for your life on September 11th, I was on the complete opposite end of the country, watching it on the news, hoping, praying that everyone was going to be all right, not knowing what was going on, but still from the comfort of nothing going on, right?
Right.
And so it's eye-opening to talk to somebody who was there on the ground, who had to experience that, because I'm sure I've got to imagine there's afterwards a lot of fear of like, what's going on? Is this going to happen again? Is it safe to even go outside? Is it safe to live where I live? I'd imagine there's a lot of that going through your head.
Absolutely, 100%. But it also just reminds me that, back then there was no social media. So the flashbacks really, come to me either live, but also now only in videos and stuff like that, or on old news clips. Whereas today we're watching horrors play out almost in real time. And it makes me feel a little guilty, to be honest, that I still share this story of, being so scared 20 years ago, when there's people all over the world right now that are really unsafe all the time, and even here in this country. So anyway, I'm just...
Also, though, you're in an interesting position, because in a great position to help people, because you've gone through similar experiences that you can relate, and you can then use your journey and your story to help others then walk through their experiences and what their traumas and stuff that they're dealing with are.
I hope so. That is the mission. That is the goal. That is the whole purpose. And you hit the nail on the head. It's trauma. At the end of the day, it's trauma, right? And whether that be from being in a terrorist attack, or finding out your partner's cheating on you. I mean, all kinds of trauma that women and men and all people, come across in their daily lives. So yeah, thank you. I do want to help people. My mission is to help people feel more strong, more safe, physically and mentally and spiritually, and confident from the streets to the boardroom. So everywhere in your life.
So you've been able to use this terrible moment and this major roadblock in life to do something and essentially turn it into a superpower. How are you guiding others to do the same and to get over that fear and that doubt?
Hmm. How many ways? Well, so earlier in my career, it was mostly about the physicality of it, right? So it was the martial arts and just to back up, in martial arts, to be fair, it is the most holistic system I can think of. Um, when it comes to what people would consider either a sport or a hobby or a practice. It is so holistic because yes, you are doing the physical, you're working out your body, you're conditioning, you're learning life-saving skills, you're punching, you're kicking, right, all the things, and it also helps you mentally. And any good martial arts instructor and teacher and sensei and master is going to teach dojo wisdom, right? Which is about becoming a leader in the world. It's about confidence. It's about, discipline, all of these amazing values that I mentioned in the beginning. And spiritually as well, we have meditation. We, have different forms of movement that can sync to your breath that feels like a moving meditation. There's so many different kinds. Again, depending on the style of martial art you practice, depending on where you practice, depending on your teacher, all of that. But at least for me, I found the most holistic program, program system that really addresses all those things. So that's where kind of the career started. And then I
Mhm.
started doing personal training because after September 11th, I was out of a job. So I was like, hey, what can I do to help other people get these same benefits that I'm getting?
Mm.
So I like, I don't know, I could teach this stuff at a gym. So I went to a gym, got certified as a personal trainer, and then later on started to realize, how important nutrition was in the equation. So I went to health coaching school. Later on, I went back to get a master's in nutrition. So it was really this evolution of learning, training, embodying, and then teaching. So I did that for 10 years while I was in the dojo in New York. And then I moved to LA. And so I've been here now for 14 years. And again, the iterations of my career and how I'm helping people have now expanded to public speaking, to coaching. I just got a high performance coaching certification so I can help people more with mindset. Because I think at the end of the day, what I learned, from doing all of that work was you can tell people to work out, you can tell people what to eat, but at the end of the day, if they really truly want to get healthy, the thing that they usually have to work on most is mindset. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I can relate to that when it came to my transformation, and still to this day, the when I hit a roadblock in the business or even my relationship with my wife and stuff, I realize a lot of it, not a lot of it, all of it has to do with my mindset, and that I've got some sort of limiting belief or some sort of false belief, something that's really holding me back. And I've learned if I figure out how to address that first, life gets a whole lot easier.
Right? It's so true. Don't you wish everyone knew that?
Yes. Yes, very much so. And it's been a topic of conversation between my wife and I a lot because we've made a lot of changes here. We're both growing significantly, and we're growing at a rate right now and together and separately in our own careers that it's been really wild to watch how rapidly we've each grown, and
Mm.
some of the limiting beliefs that we had that were holding us back for so long. And as soon as those limiting beliefs or just our mindset changed, how much we've been able to accomplish. It's unreal.
Oh, I love that. Would you share what those some of those limiting beliefs were?
For I would say for me, the biggest one, and this one is like a recurring theme, is that I'm not worthy of the next level. Yeah.
Mm.
And I can't speak so much to my wife, but I can speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a lot of times just from how I grew up middle child, and I can't blame my parents. There's no one to blame but myself. But just a lot of the things holding me back, even from, I remember specifically in high school, I was just not worthy of the life that I truly desired. And for whatever reason, each time I'm trying to achieve something or do something great, that seems to be the limiting belief that I have to continually readdress is like, okay, so you've done this, but you're really not worthy of the next level. And it's like, well, no, why? Who said I'm not? Where's the rule book of life that says that I
Right.
can't go achieve more than what I've already got?
Right. Ah, I love that so much, and I can relate. I think a lot of people probably have that hidden in there, and until they even know what a limiting belief is, most people can die with those limiting beliefs.
And so for you, a central theme of everything you've done and through research, empowerment, you've been empowering people, especially empowering women. But what has been a misconception about empowerment that you encounter, and how do you address that?
The only thing I can think of as a misconception of empowerment would be that, and I hear it from other, instructors and speakers sometimes, it's like that I empower you. And I don't think that's true. I think that only an individual can empower themselves. Someone out there might be a catalyst, share an idea or a suggestion or a thought or guidance or coaching to help get you, to that next level or whatever it is that you want to be empowered in. But I think the word itself is used in a way where it's like, I empower women. Do I really? I don't know. I don't think I empower them. I think they empower themselves. But I'm here as a catalyst, a fire starter. Make sense?
Yeah. And so talking about now you going on to be a mindset coach and empowerment, and you not empowering people, but allowing them to empower themselves. Was that something you learned? So like you tell this story in your book, The Art of Badassery, about you got on the TV show. I can't remember the name of the weight loss TV show.
My diet is better than yours.
My diet is better than yours. And you were brought on because the contestant decided to go with a different coach. And so, but then in the end, didn't the contestant end up kicking you off as well, or deciding that she just didn't even want to go through with it? What do you do in that situation as a coach, or like, how do you handle somebody who's like, I don't even want to change anymore?
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, that that was quite a time. I will say this. Yeah. So if you're listening out there, you don't know the context. This is a weight loss show that I was on. It was ABC TV. I thought, oh my gosh, move over Jillian Michaels. Like, this is happening. This is my big career break, right? And I get on this show. So they fly me out to Atlanta with like 3 days notice because they didn't know what was going to happen. But basically each contestant had their own coach, and you were allowed to fire your coach one time. So of course, this woman who fired her coach, then I was like the backup. So I was called on to the show with, like I said, 3 days notice. So I go down there, we meet, okay, like we come from different backgrounds, we have nothing in common, but that's all fine. Like I've worked with people from all different backgrounds and all different places in the world even. So I'm like, this is going to be great. And we had essentially 6 weeks together. Each week, there was a weigh-in, there was the whole shoot, filming, and just as you can imagine. But as the weeks went on, my client got more and more difficult. And, oh, gosh, I mean, without having to go into the entire story, at the end of these 6 weeks, we were supposed to have one last weigh-in before the experts, us, the coaches, went away and left the contestants on their own. I think it was supposed to be for about another 6 weeks or whatever, and then we come back. So they were then supposed to carry on their plan that we created for them, but on their own. So as we're getting ready for this big almost finale, it wasn't the finale, I'm training my client in Hapkido, so the martial art that's so near and dear to me, and she was loving it, I thought, until close to the end. Close to the end where I was testing her for her yellow belt. And again, in martial arts, like, it's not easy. It's meant to be hard. The tests are given and they are meant to be difficult. They're meant to challenge you, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, to see if you can get to that next level. So I was pushing her and she just was not having it. She was so pissed at me and it was showing, and she was just like, kind of giving off to me in the middle of the test. And again, with martial arts, there's supposed to be mutual respect and there's traditions and, all kinds of things. So anyway, like I said, she had been difficult for many weeks now. And when that happened, I just lost it. So I lost my shit on camera and I gave her the belt and I was like, we're done. I dropped the F-bomb on national TV. Like, it was awful. So then we both have to show up the next day for this weigh-in. And, long story short, again, like, there was words, and I said to her, you basically need help that I cannot offer you. Now, at the time I wasn't a mindset coach. I used mindset work in my training, but she wasn't, how can I say this in the nicest way? She just wasn't willing to look at that. She wasn't willing to look at her blocks. And that's really what you can do. People can do, I've done, in therapy with coaches that really want to go deep, because some of that stuff that we carry with us all through our lives really holds us back from that breakthrough. And sometimes you got to break down to break through, right? So what did I do? We broke up as client. She basically walked off the show. So technically I was fired off this TV show. So forget about, Jillian Michael status. I was like, am I going to have a career after this? But what wound up happening when this actually went live months later, people from around the country that were watching started DMing me and sending me messages and saying, thank you for bringing this to light, because all we're told on TV and in the media is that weight loss equals calories in, calories out, right? And it's like, that's simple, and everyone should understand that and be fine with that. What I brought to the table was a conversation about mindset, mental health, and well-being, which has a way bigger impact on our total health, on our body health, on our physical health than we can ever imagine. Sometimes you got to fire your client.
which is, I don't want to say it's good to hear. It's refreshing to hear every once in a while. But I've had this longing question and you're actually going to be the first person I've asked it, which is, we all want everyone, at least in the self-help, the improvement, the coaching space, you want everyone to achieve their best, to reach their potential. But and you can't want something more than somebody else wants it, right? We've all helped somebody to the point where they've driven us completely crazy. But is that overcomable?
Is what part of it overcomable?
Even the person who doesn't want it for themselves. Is there a point where you just have to say, I've tried my best, or is there still an opportunity and you just have to find the right approach to help them see there's a better life for them?
Great question. And I'm going to say that the older I get, the more that I realize that letting people be who they are is the highest expression of love that you can give. And just being okay with that. because trying to change someone, trying to force someone, trying to give them the tools and then be upset when they don't use it is more about you getting your needs met than helping them, I think. So it's hard. It is hard to do, but I think, on that path to being a better human, I'm going to use the word enlightenment if that rings true for anyone. I have these visions of like yogis or Gandhi or like these kind of people. Like, do you think they were out there trying to like force change on people? No, they themselves were the highest versions of themselves, which would then maybe attract people who want to also improve themselves around them. And I think that's probably what happens more naturally in life, where if you're working on yourself, your partner or family members might be like, wow, I want some of that too. She seems happier. She seems more at peace.
Mm.
She's calmer these days. What is she doing? And then, yeah. Did that answer?
Yeah, no, that answers that's I can see that, and that's something I think I've slowly been learning as well, is that you still you can't want something for more than you can't want something more than somebody else wants them, but you can love them where they are.
Yes.
And so the fire inside of me that wants to reach my full potential and who is living a fulfilled life and a happy life by chasing down the best version of me, wants everyone to experience that. And so how do I balance not wanting everyone to experience their best version of them, but also letting them be who they decide they want to be?
Yeah.
So
Totes.
thank you. How has your approach to coaching self-defense evolved over the years, especially with these new platforms that we have, social media and YouTube and the expansion of the internet?
Yeah. Oh, good question. Well, with social media and all of that, as you know, everything has to be bite sized.
Mm.
Everyone wants to learn something in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, we know that to master anything, right? I think there's a number out there, 10,000 hours or something like that. So,
Mm.
what I've gotten to, again, which kind of goes back to your previous question, our previous discussion, is like, I want for everyone to learn self-defense. I want for everyone to be able to defend themselves and be strong and all of that. But I can't want it more than someone else wants it for themselves. So what I can offer now is bite size, bite size things on TikTok. And if you want more, okay, well, I have the online training program called She Warrior Self Defense. And that, people can then learn on their own time and schedule. And in general, I had these 10 years of training. So corporations started hiring me to come and teach either in person or even virtual, a lot virtually over the pandemic. I was doing self-defense from my living room in front of a camera, um, every week almost for major global brands. It was nuts. So I had to pare down 10 years of training into 1 hour. So what do you teach in 1 hour? Well, the most important things that you can think of, which are the basics, essentially. So that's really my approach these days, is because I usually only have an hour in front of people. I'm not at a dojo anymore. I don't have the time to teach like I was doing, back in New York when I was at the dojo, every day. So I guess my approach, the answer to your question is, my approach is teach the basics, quick and dirty, and then if people want more, offer them more.
I did want to kind of get into this topic of a lot of times with coaches, And I even do this myself, and I get to have these conversations with great people like you. We tend to think that you have everything figured out, right? Because you're the coach, you're teaching us how to be confident and how to overcome our limiting beliefs. And so a lot of times we'll end up putting people on pedestals or idolizing them or thinking that they have everything figured out. But what are
Right.
some of the things that you are constantly or maybe having to readdress in your life? And on top of that, who are some of the people you look up to?
Okay. What are things that I address? What like holds me back?
Yeah, what
What
are
am
some
I
of the
tackling?
challenges that you are facing? Because we're always
Yeah.
striving for growth, right? And so
Oh
that
yeah.
means we're constantly working on ourselves. So what are the some of the things that you may be currently working on, and then
Yeah.
who do you look up to for guidance to overcome some of your boundaries or walls that may be in place?
Yeah. Oof. Such great questions. I feel that my biggest challenges usually are in business, but since my business is a reflection of myself, I
Mm,
get that it's about myself, right? And the work
yeah.
that really needs to be done is to be done within first. Um, because I can look at my business like very strategically and say, well, you could do this and you could do this and you could do this. But at the end of the day, I have to believe in myself that I have what it takes to create the impact that I really want to create. So I'm always striving um, for, you know, more in my business,
Hmm.
write another book. I want to, do more speaking gigs. I just want to amplify what I'm already currently doing. And so I have to constantly put myself out there and I constantly get rejected. And I think that's the part that people don't see from the outside in, is the amount of rejection someone like myself goes through. Just last night before going to bed, I read an email from a conference that rejected my proposal, right? So it's like it's happening all day long. And I, again, the work is totally within. Like I have to be okay doing that. And I have to remember that every no is closer to a yes, that I'm going to fail more times than I probably succeed. That failure is not only okay, it's necessary part of the journey. And that it's not a reflection of who I am at my core and my being
Hmm.
and my heart, right? And so that's really my biggest work right now is just remembering that, why I chose this, why I keep going is because of the impact I want to have on other folks or be a resource for other folks. So, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard when you're sometimes on a shoestring budget and trying to pull all this together and then I compare myself to women that are 5 years ahead of me that have a team of people working for them and making seven figures all the time, and at least they talk about it. I don't know if it's always true, but I start to say, well, why not me? Why can't I get there yet? What's wrong with me? And I'm saying all this out loud because I know some of you listening have the same doubts. So staying the course, being patient, being persistent, and really remembering that who I am at my core is kind and compassionate and of value and worthy. That's the real work.
Hmm. Have you found, and this is to address something you brought up that I've been thinking through here recently, was all the people I follow on social media are all the people I looked up to. And I look up to them because they post really good information regarding where I'm trying to grow with my business and my relationship and in my life. But what I found is over the years, as I narrowed who I followed down to just the people I wanted to influence me, I
Mm,
started to struggle a lot with the same comparison
hmm
issues of everybody I see on my feed and who I follow are all people who have succeeded at some of the highest levels.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I see is success at the highest levels, and I'm not there. But that's all I allow myself to see because they're positive influences. But at the same time, it's becoming like a negative influence.
Ooh, I feel you. I feel you on that. Oh, yes. That's why I'm saying it out loud right now because it's very real for me right now.
Mm,
And I probably more so because I popped into two like master classes recently from these two women, and I won't name them, but big coaches, whatever, and they're talking about how much they make and how they did it and blah blah blah. And again, all those questions come up for me like, why not me? Why haven't I had this level of success yet? What's wrong with me? Right? When you really peel back the layer, it's like, what's wrong with me? Will I ever achieve that? Is there something flawed about me in general that will never allow me to achieve that? So I have to believe that all these people ahead of us in business,
mm,
I'm sure have had those same doubts,
mm,
and they've been able to just push through them.
mm.
So
I've never thought of it that way. Because they were probably at some point on their journey looking up to other people having the same exact thoughts, and
exactly.
that's actually a really refreshing thought. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope that helps.
I know that you, as we're talking about business and expanding, you actually have a free gift for our listeners. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
For sure. So because my life and days as a nutritionist and health coach only have passed, I still think that nutrition is a huge part of both mental and physical health. Um, so much so that I created this program called Burnout to Badass. And it's an 8-week coaching program where people enter my dojo. I'm using air quotes, where we get to do the work. Essentially, it's just an online coaching program. We get together once a week. And I have folks, walk through and adopt 6 habits of high performers. And one of those is nutrition. So the 6 habits are mindset, mindfulness, meditation, movement, nutrition, and sleep. So again, long answer to your question. The little gift that I have for everyone is a nutrition guide, and it's my 12 nutrition rules that keep it simple, that could work for everyone. That you don't have to do any crazy diets, you don't have to do anything extreme. They're just the principles that I follow. Now I'm looking at 50 years old in a few years. And they are my tried and true nutrition principles. Along with that, I have breakfast ideas and snack ideas because those are usually the two areas that people fumble and stumble the most when it comes to nutrition. So yeah, I have that for you. It's at pages.jennifercassetta.com/food rules.
Perfect. And we'll actually put that link down below in the show notes as well.
Great.
Jennifer, as we start to wrap it up, there's one question that I love to ask all my guests. And that is, what is one lesson that you've learned in life? It could be about anything that you want to share with the listener.
The one lesson that I want to share with everyone is really just a reminder that all the power that you need to create your most badass life is already within you. And I've learned that, especially through the last 6-ish years, that I've developed a very deep meditation practice. And when I do this meditation practice, I remember every single day that everything I need is already within me. And the answers are already there. The wisdom is already there. The power, the confidence, everything I need is already there. And that goes for everyone out there too. You don't need to be looking outside of yourself for all the answers. Usually they're within, and it's only when you get quiet enough to listen and give yourself the space that you can hear it.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for that. Where can the listener go to connect with you?
My website is jennifercassetta.com. on Instagram is probably where I'm most active, and that's Jen Cassetta, 2 N's, 2 S's, 2 T's.
Awesome. I'll make sure to include those show notes, or I'll make sure to include those links down below in the show notes. And for anyone that's listening, watching, if you like this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, share it with a friend so we can continue to help support Jennifer, but also get other amazing guests on the podcast. So, Jen, thank you so much for being a guest on the Life Edge podcast.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me, everyone, and thanks for listening.